Good morning.
In unison, good morning.
You may proceed, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. McManus, excuse me. Ms. McManus, your deposition in the Chandler lawsuit was on December 7, 1993, right?
Correct.
And the complaint you filed against Michael Jackson, along with Ralph Chacon, was December 2, 1994. A year later, approximately a year later, right?
I believe so.
Okay. Would it refresh your recollection just to take a look at the complaint?
Sure.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. Now, in that lawsuit, you were suing Mr. Jackson for a number of different claims, and one of the claims talked about you having appeared at a deposition taken by Larry Feldman, and the claim said that you were a potential material witness against Jackson in both the civil suit and a criminal investigation, right?
I believe so.
And what that really meant was, by filing that complaint with that language, you were essentially threatening Mr. Jackson that you would change your testimony unless you were paid, right?
I'm not familiar with a lot of attorney language, so I really don't know how to answer that.
How much money do you recall you were seeking from Mr. Jackson in that lawsuit?
That's another question I cannot answer. That was dealing with my attorney.
Well, you were in court when he argued to the Santa Maria jury for millions of dollars, right?
I don't even know if I was there at that time. I could have been. I don't remember.
You certainly must have discussed with your attorney during that 6-month trial how much money you were trying to get for yourself from Mr. Jackson, right?
Honestly, I don't believe anybody knew how much money anybody would be getting out of a trial.
But how much did you want?
I really didn't want anything. I just wanted justice for what I had gone through.
You didn't want millions of dollars in that lawsuit?
I wanted justice. I didn't, whatever. I wanted justice.
But your idea of justice was millions of bucks, right?
Well, that's not what I call justice.
You file a lawsuit, you go through approximately 8 days of depositions, all sorts of paperwork, and you're in trial for 6 months. You wanted millions, right?
Honestly, a simple, sorry for what we did to you, would have been great for me.
Did you ever write a letter to Mr. Jackson saying, Mr. Jackson, I don't want to sue you. Just tell me you're sorry.
No, I did not.
Ever call Mr. Jackson and say, Mr. Jackson, I don't really want to sue you. Just say you're sorry.
I didn't have a number to contact Mr. Jackson.
Okay. When did you first go to the police to tell them you had seen anything improper about Mr. Jackson?
I can't recall the date. I don't remember.
It was after your deposition in the Chandler case, correct?
It might have been.
Do you know approximately when you first talked to anyone from the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Department about your claim that you'd seen Mr. Jackson do anything improper?
You know, it might have been when I talked to my attorney, Mr. Ring. It might have been sometime then, that I can recall.
And when you did that, you thought going to the sheriffs would put pressure on Mr. Jackson to pay money in your civil case, right?
No, I did not.
Did you go to the sheriffs with your attorney?
I don't believe so.
But certainly you went to an attorney before anyone from law enforcement, right?
Actually, I recall going to law enforcement to complain about the death threat that I got from James Van Norman and strange circumstances that were going on at Neverland Valley Ranch.
But that was also to bolster your claim for millions of dollars, right?
That was before I even contacted an attorney.
But by doing that, you were setting the stage for a lawsuit for millions of dollars against Mr. Jackson, correct?
No, I was not.
You went to tabloids, a lawyer, and the sheriffs, all to get millions of bucks, right?
You're wrong.
Objection. Compound.
The answer was, you're wrong. Overruled. Next question.
Do you know Leslie Gomez?
No, I don't.
Do you know she was the manager of McFrugal's?
I think I know her as Beaver. That's the name I think I'm thinking of.
You told her you had never seen Michael Jackson act inappropriately with children, right?
I've never talked to her about Michael Jackson.
You told Leslie Gomez that the suit by that kid, meaning Mr. Chandler, was a bunch of bull, right?
I've never told I've never talked to her about anything to do with lawsuits or anything with Mr. Jackson.
And do you know someone named Ludi Trujillo?
Yes, I do.
Ludi Trujillo is your former boss at Gottschalk's, right?
No, she was not.
Who is she?
She's a girl that worked at Gottschalk's. Just a lady.
She didn't have any position above you?
No, she did not.
Okay. You talked to her about the Chandler lawsuit, didn't you?
No, I did not.
She asked you specifically if Mr. Jackson ever molested children, and you told her, of course Michael did not, right?
No, I did not.
You told her Michael Jackson was a great boss, didn't you?
No, I did not.
Do you know someone named Jamie Vale?
No, I don't.
Didn't Jamie Vale live across the street from you?
Where was this? I don't know the name.
Okay. Do you remember telling someone named Jamie Vale that you loved Michael Jackson, you love working at the ranch, and you never believed any of the charges against him?
I don't even know that person.
Okay. Do you know who Gail Goforth is?
Yes, I do.
And who is Gail Goforth?
She was a supervisor that worked at Neverland Valley Ranch.
Do you remember Gail asked you if there was anything to rumors about inappropriate conduct by Mr. Jackson?
We never talked about that, no.
In the autumn of 1993, you told her there was no truth to those rumors about Mr. Jackson acting inappropriately, right?
No, I did not.
Now, you and Ralph Chacon and Qasim Abdul started meeting secretly at Neverland to talk about your lawsuit, didn't you?
No, we did not.
You and Ralph Chacon and Qasim Abdul began to meet at Neverland to discuss the possibility of selling stories to the media, right?
No, we did not.
Did you ever discuss selling a story to the media with Ralph Chacon?
No, I did not.
When you were working at Neverland, did you ever learn that Ralph Chacon was thinking of selling any story about Michael Jackson to the media?
No.
When did you first hear anything about Ralph Chacon's willingness to go to the media with information about Michael Jackson?
The only time that we all sold a story was when we were already in our lawsuit with Mr. Jackson, which was with Mr. Ring, our attorney.
Now, at some point, you learned that Blanca Francia had sold a story to hard copy, correct?
Yes.
She sold her information before you sold yours, right?
I don't recall when Blanca sold the story.
Do you know someone named Charlie Michaels?
Yes, I do.
Who is Charlie Michaels?
She was a security guard for Neverland Valley Ranch.
Did you ever hear information that Charlie Michaels was trying to sell a story about Michael Jackson to the media?
No, I did not.
To date, have you ever heard anything about that?
No.
Ever have a discussion with Charlie Michaels about the possibility of making money from information you'd learned at Neverland?
No. I only recall talking to Charlie about her having sexual harassment with people at the ranch.
Okay, so you and she never said anything about the possibility of making a buck from the media, correct?
No.
Okay, now, when you were at Neverland, you learned that security guards at the Encino home of the Jacksons on Havenhurst had sold stories for approximately $100,000, right?
No, I never heard that.
You knew they had sold stories about Michael Jackson, didn't you?
No.
I'm going to object as asked and answered.
Sustained.
Do you know someone named Francine Orozco?
Yes, I do.
And who is Francine Orozco?
She was a maid for Neverland Valley Ranch.
And at some point, she was a personal friend of yours, was she not?
We became friends, yes.
Now, you knew that she became a witness against your claims in the lawsuit, right?
Yes, I believe so.
She said you were never sexually harassed by anybody, right?
I'll object as hearsay.
Sustained.
Didn't you repeatedly tell Francine Orozco that Michael Jackson was innocent of any charge of molestation?
No, I did not.
Do you remember telling Francine Orozco that you were going to get big-time money in your lawsuit against Michael Jackson?
No, I did not.
And you tried to convince her to say that she had seen acts of sexual harassment involving you, right?
No, I did not.
While you worked at Neverland, Francine Orozco visited you at home, did she not?
Maybe one time.
And you showed her a room in your house filled with watches, posters, clocks, sunglasses, t-shirts and other items you had taken from Neverland, correct?
No.
You showed her laundry baskets filled with Michael Jackson's clothes that you had taken from Neverland, right?
No, I did not.
Do you remember one time at Neverland when a box of black felt hats came from Mr. Jackson?
I can't recall that.
Do you remember that box of hats had Michael Jackson's name printed on the inside of the rim of the hats?
I know he had hats, but I don't recall the hats being sent there.
Do you remember taking a hat and saying you were going to bring it home?
No.
Now, you used to take food home from the theater, did you not?
Food? Like what are you talking about? Dinners?
Candy?
No.
Never took bags of candy home?
There was a time when, you say, take, you're saying I'm just going to take it. That is not correct. There was a time when Gail Goforth, a supervisor, went down to the theater and took a lot of the candy from there, because it was expired. She brought it back to the maid's room, and she let all the maids take candy that was expired. She also gave it to security. That was the only time.
So you never stole any candy from Michael Jackson?
No, I did not.
Do you remember around Christmas time when you worked at Neverland, Mr. Jackson used to purchase toys for needy children?
I believe he did.
And they tended to be fairly expensive toys, did they not?
I really don't know.
You took some of those toys home, did you not?
No, I did not. That was Janelle Wall.
Pardon me?
That was Janelle Wall that would take that.
You never took any Super Soaker guns home?
No, sir.
Now, these are the kinds of things the jury found that you had actually done, correct?
I don't believe so.
Well, they found that you had stolen from Mr. Jackson, correct?
I believe it was what they thought I had stolen was that sketch that I found in the trash.
And you're saying you didn't steal that either, right?
I didn't. I found it in the trash.
That's the sketch of Elvis?
Yes.
You complained at Neverland that you should be paid more, right?
I don't believe I did.
Never said that to anybody?
I don't recall saying that.
Okay, and you say you left voluntarily, correct?
I left after the harassment and the death threats, yes.
And then you filed a claim for disability with Ed, right?
No.
Objection. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
Ralph Chacon stopped working at Neverland the same day you stopped, right?
I don't believe so.
Qasim Abdul stopped working there the same day you stopped, didn't he?
I don't believe so.
Excuse me. Now, you sued someone named Bill Bray, correct?
Yes.
And who is Bill Bray?
He was the, how would you say it? Maybe the top man for the Office of Special Services.
You sued Betty Bailey, right?
Yes.
And who was Betty Bailey?
She was maybe like his right hand.
And you sued Mr. Jackson's personal security people, right?
Yes, I did.
You sued Jimmy Van Norman, right?
Yes, I did.
Marcus Johnson, right?
Yes. Yes.
Tony Coleman?
Yes.
And Jerome J.J. Johnson, right?
Yes.
And at some point you approached Mr. Johnson about testifying for you, right?
No, I did not.
Someone on your behalf did, right?
All I know is that I believe that, from what I understand, he jumped onto our side and decided to tell the truth about what was going on.
And when you say he decided to tell the truth, you dropped your suit against him, right?
I believe we did.
And the jury didn't believe him either, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
He never testified. Assumes facts not in evidence that he testified.
I sustained your objection.
Do you remember when Mr. Johnson got in trouble for sending an extortion letter to Mr. Jackson asking for $3 million?
I did learn of that through the later part of my deposition, which I knew nothing about.
At the point where you learned about Mr. Johnson's $3 million extortion letter to Mr. Jackson, were you working with him on your lawsuit?
No.
You stole commemorative Pepsi cans from Neverland, did you not?
No, I did not.
You were accused of that, right?
No, I was not.
Do you know someone named Peter Burt?
No, I do not.
Never heard the name?
I've heard of the name, but I do not know him.
Okay, you do know Sandy Doms, do you not?
Yes, I do.
Who is Sandy Doms?
She was an office administrator, a secretary for Neverland Valley Ranch.
You and the other plaintiffs in that lawsuit decided that she would go to the show hard copy to try and sell a story, correct?
Not that I ever recall.
Are you saying that didn't happen, or you just don't remember?
That did not happen.
So you never got together and said, we'll split money that we could get from hard copy?
No, I did not.
Inside edition. Off-the-record discussion held at counsel table. How much in total did Mr. Ring collect on your behalf from tabloids or media?
From what I recall from my deposition, which there were stubs in my deposition, that showed, I'm thinking, maybe 32,000.
Okay, did any of that go to you?
1,000.
Now, you spent days being interviewed by a book author named Mr. Gutierrez, right?
Days being interviewed?
Yes.
No.
Were you interviewed by a book author named Mr. Gutierrez?
I never was interviewed, but I did meet with him.
And approximately when did you meet with him?
You know, I cannot recall the date.
Well, you certainly had a discussion with him about the fact that he was writing a book, didn't you?
No, I did not.
So when you met with him, you didn't know he was writing a book?
No, when I met with him, he was going to try to help us in our lawsuit.
Did you ever learn he was writing a book about Mr. Jackson?
I don't recall him saying that he was writing a book. I don't remember that.
Did you give him information about Mr. Jackson?
Later I did.
When you first talked to the Santa Barbara sheriffs, you didn't tell them about inappropriate behavior you'd seen by Mr. Jackson, correct?
Probably not.
You waited to say that in your lawsuit, correct?
I don't recall.
Going back to your deposition in the Chandler suit, okay?
Uh-huh.
You were asked if you'd ever seen Wade Robson at the ranch without one of his parents, and you said, no, right?
I have not gone over that, so I do not recall what I've said or.
Would it refresh your recollection to just take a look at the page?
Yeah.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay.
Have you had a chance to look at that page?
Yes.
Does it refresh your recollection about what you said under oath in that deposition?
Yes.
And on that issue, what did you say?
No.
You said you had never seen Wade Robson at the ranch without one of his parents, right?
Correct.
You were asked if you had ever seen Brett Barnes' clothes in Mr. Jackson's bedroom, right?
If it's there. Like I said, I have not gone over that.
And your response was sometimes his mother would give you his clothes to wash, right?
Yeah, probably.
Is that what you remember saying?
Like I said, I have not gone over that in probably 10 years.
Would it refresh your recollection to just take a look at that page?
Sure.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Have you had a chance to look at that page?
Yes, I did.
Does it refresh your recollection about what you said?
Yes.
And you said that his mother would give you his clothes, correct?
Correct.
You didn't see his clothes in Mr. Jackson's bedroom, right? Excuse me. At that point in time, you said you didn't see his clothes in Mr. Jackson's bedroom. His mother would give you his clothes, correct?
Correct.
You also said you'd never seen any of the Culkin boys' clothes in Mr. Jackson's bedroom, right?
If it's there, that's probably what I said at that time.
Let me just go back a little bit. You said that you saw Macaulay Culkin and his brother at Neverland, right?
I probably did.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at that page?
Sure.
Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
Okay.
Have you had a chance to look at that page?
Yes, I did.
Does it refresh your recollection about what you said on that topic?
Yes.
You said that you had never seen the Culkin boys' clothes in Mr. Jackson's bedroom, right?
Yes.
You also told Mr. Feldman that you had never come to Mr. Jackson's room in the morning and seen anything that indicated somebody may have slept on his floor, right?
I don't recall, sorry.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at that page?
Sure.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Have you had a chance to look at that?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection about what you said?
Yes.
And what did you say?
No.
Do you remember testifying that Mr. Jackson had never given you money?
I don't recall that. I don't.
Did Mr. Jackson give you money from time to time?
No. There was just one time.
Okay. And that was when you told the jury that you got $300 to lie in a deposition?
That.
Objection. Misstates the testimony of the witness.
Let me rephrase that. Did you tell the jury that Mr. Jackson gave you $300 to lie in a deposition?
Objection. Misstatement of evidence.
Overruled. You may answer.
What I said was the $300 was given to me after Mr. Jackson had read the transcripts of Gordon Chandler.
Okay. And you interpreted that as a token of his appreciation?
Yes, for covering up for him.
Okay. $300?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember being asked if you'd ever seen a woman in Mr. Jackson's bedroom?
I can't recall that.
You said you had seen June Chandler in his bedroom, right?
I believe to bring in Jordy's clothes.
Well, let me just go step by step. You testified under oath in the deposition that you had seen June Chandler in Mr. Jackson's bedroom, right?
To bring in his clothes, yes.
You said you had never seen Mr. Jackson and June Chandler in any romantic relationship, right?
Correct.
You weren't aware of her sleeping with Mr. Jackson, right?
No.
But you saw her in his room?
To bring in the clothes, yes.
Well, you didn't say, to bring in the clothes, in the deposition, right?
I don't know what's in the deposition.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at that page?
Sure.
All object as irrelevant and hearsay.
I think the prosecution raised the issue of what was happening in that bedroom.
I'll allow you to refresh her recollection.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay.
Have you had a chance to look at that page of your deposition?
Yes, I did.
Does it refresh your recollection about what you said about June Chandler being in Mr. Jackson's room?
Yes.
You said you had seen June Chandler in his room, right?
Yes.
You didn't explain it in terms of her coming there for clothes, or with clothes, right?
I guess not, no.
You testified that you had seen Gordon Chandler and Michael Jackson together outside on a jet ski in the water, right?
I probably did.
Do you remember that?
Slightly.
You indicated you had seen Mr. Jackson in water balloon fights and squirt gun fights, right?
I believe so.
And you saw that once in a while, didn't you, while you worked there?
Yes.
He would do that with kids all the time, wouldn't he?
Yeah, sometimes.
Was it your impression that Mr. Jackson liked water balloon fights?
All object as speculative.
Sustained.
You said you had never seen Mr. Jackson hold hands with anyone at the ranch, right?
I don't recall that.
Could I refresh your recollection?
Sure.
By showing you the page?
Sure.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay.
Have you had a chance to look at that page?
Yes, I did.
Does it refresh your recollection about what you said?
Yes.
You said you'd never seen Michael Jackson hold hands with anybody at the ranch, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, there was approximately a 1-year period between this deposition and the actual filing of your lawsuit against Mr. Jackson, right?
Are you talking about Gordon Chandler?
Well, approximately a 1-year period between your deposition in the Chandler case and the filing of your lawsuit, correct?
I believe so.
Now, the Chandler deposition was in December, and the next December you filed your lawsuit, right?
I know the Chandler one was probably December 7th of, oh, gosh. I don't know if it was 93 or 94. I don't know the dates.
Okay. We talked about a little earlier that December 7th, 1993, is the deposition in the Chandler case.
Okay.
And your lawsuit is December 2nd, 1994?
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
Now, how long after the Feldman deposition in the Chandler case did you go a lawyer to talk about suing?
I don't know how long after it was. I know I left Neverland in the end of July of 94. It might have been. I don't even want to guess because I'm not sure.
You must have had a lot of meetings with Mr. Ring before you actually finalized the lawsuit, right?
I believe so.
And do you know roughly when that started?
You know, in my head, I don't know why I keep thinking 1995, but I don't know.
For how many months do you think you and Ralph Chacon and Qasim Abdul met with Mr. Ring before the action was filed?
I really can't answer that, because I really don't know.
Approximately when did you stop working at Neverland?
The exact date, my last day, I believe, was July the 31st of 94.
Do you recall participating in an Inside Edition show?
I believe so.
And when did you participate in a show about Mr. Jackson for Inside Edition?
I believe that had to do when we contacted Gary Morgan. That was all around the same time, so our lawsuit had already been going on.
Do you remember meeting with representatives of Inside Edition?
I remember those. The people from Inside Edition showing up at our attorney's office, so I guess, yeah.
Did you meet with them with your lawyer?
Yes.
And was Ralph Chacon in that meeting?
You know what, I really can't recall.
Was Qasim Abdul in that meeting?
I don't want to say yes, because I can't recall.
But the subject was Mr. Jackson, right?
Yes, it was.
Do you remember trying to sell information about Mr. Jackson's relationship with Ms. Presley?
There could have been something of that. Possibly, yes.
You say, possibly, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you were actually trying to get money from tabloids in return for your giving them personal information about Mr. Jackson's relationship with Ms. Presley, right?
We were trying to get money to help with our lawsuit to fight Mr. Jackson.
Do you recall ever going to anyone in the media and telling them you had inside information on Mr. Jackson's relationship with Ms. Presley?
I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you recall ever giving information to anyone in the media involving Ms. Presley and Mr. Jackson?
I believe we probably did with Gary Morgan.
And he was your media broker, wasn't he?
I believe so.
He was the one that you were using and Ralph Chacon was using to find media outlets to sell information to, right?
I believe so.
Okay. And you met him through Attorney Ring, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever see any tabloids that quoted you about Mr. Jackson?
I could have.
You're not sure?
I'm not real sure.
Did you ever see any tabloids that quoted you about Mr. Jackson's relationship with Miss Presley?
I could have. It's been a long time. I kind of can't remember.
Do you remember Star magazine asking you to sign a contract whereby you would give them information about Mr. Jackson and his relationship with his wife, Lisa Marie Presley?
I remember something to do with Gary Morgan and something with Star, but I don't remember everything that was discussed with that.
Might it refresh your recollection if I just show you that document?
Sure.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay.
Have you had a chance to look at that document?
Yes.
Does it appear to be a contract with Star magazine?
Yes.
And you signed that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And among other things, you agreed to provide information about Mr. Jackson's relationship with Lisa Marie Presley, right?
I believe so.
And Ralph Chacon signed that, did he not?
I believe so.
Now, you've heard the name Splash, correct?
Correct.
And who was Splash?
All I know about Splash is that it was linked up with Gary Morgan, so I don't know a lot of this tabloid stuff. I don't know.
Well, Splash was an agency, was it not, that was retained by you to find media sources, right?
If it was retained, it would have been with Michael Ring, my attorney.
Okay. You signed an agreement with Splash News and Picture Agency, right?
I believe so.
And was your involvement with Splash always through Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Did you ever deal with Splash directly?
No, I did not.
How long were you working with Splash?
I have no idea. I don't know the dates.
At some point, did your relationship with Splash end?
I'm sure it did.
Okay. Do you know approximately when?
No, I do not.
Were you giving information to any tabloids or media sources during your trial?
Only through Splash.
And that went on during the trial, right?
Probably sometime during the trial, yes.
Do you recall trying to sell what you called Mr. Jackson's sex secrets? Do you remember that?
I know something was written about that, but I know sometimes tabloids write other stuff that they like to put in, so I don't know.
You were quoted in an issue of Star magazine titled, 5 of His Closest Servants Tell All. Kinky Sex Secrets of Michael and Lisa Marie's Bedroom, right?
I don't believe I said that.
Have you seen that article before?
I did during my deposition.
Was that the first time you'd ever seen this article?
Yes.
You were quoted in the article, correct?
I don't know. I could be. I don't know.
Would it refresh your recollection if I just show you?
Sure, you can.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Kind of hard to see that. Okay.
Have you had a chance to look at that article?
Yes.
Does it refresh your recollection about you being quoted in that article?
Yes.
You were going to tabloids and saying that you were the only person with a key to Mr. Jackson's bedroom and you had information to sell, right?
As I've said, I know we did the interview with Gary Morgan. But a lot of the times with those tabloids write other stuff and put it in there, and it makes it look like I said it, when I didn't say it. So I don't know how to answer that.
Well, did he have authorization from you to quote you with various tabloids?
You know what? That's where I don't know. He was dealing with Michael Ring, so I really don't know. I kind of got stuck in the middle.
Well, at some point you must have known that your quotes were appearing in tabloids regarding Mr. Jackson, true?
Assumes facts not in evidence that there were quotes.
Sustained.
During the time you were represented by Attorney Ring, did you learn from time to time that your name and various quotes about Mr. Jackson were appearing in the media?
Just through the Gary Morgan deal. That's all I recall.
What I'm trying to find out is this. Did you sort of leave it to other people to sort of quote you when they wanted in the media?
Actually, sometimes you have no control over what people quote you in the media.
But you're not saying you had nothing to do with these quotes, are you?
I can't answer that, because I don't know what was quoted.
Okay, you never learned?
No.
During your trial with Mr. Jackson, were you speaking to various newscasters?
Only Gary Morgan is all that I recall, and when we met with Victor Gutierrez, and that was it.
Would he arrange meetings for you?
Victor Gutierrez?
No, Mr. Morgan.
I believe he might have, through Mr. Ring.
Let me rephrase that. Was it typical during your relationship with Mr. Morgan that he would fax a story to you to have you review it, and ask you to see if you wanted any changes, and then you would fax it back?
What I recall is viewing one. I don't know what you call it. I don't know if it was a transcript, and that's the only thing I remember seeing.
Did the group use to meet with Mr. Morgan?
The only time we all met was with Mr. Ring at his office.
And you had a number of meetings with Mr. Ring, Mr. Morgan, and the group that was suing Michael Jackson, true?
Maybe 2 meetings that I can recall.
And Ralph Chacon was at those meetings, right?
He might have been at one. I don't know if he was at all of them.
When did you last talk to Ralph Chacon?
It's been a while. I don't know, maybe, I really can't, it's been a while.
When did you last talk to Qasim Abdul?
Actually, the last time I spoke with Qasim was during our verdict, when we lost, and I have not seen him since.
How about Melanie Bagnall?
I see her off and on.
Do you recall your being quoted in any Australian newspapers about Mr. Jackson's private life?
No,
Was it your understanding that Mr. Morgan was going to try and use your quotes in foreign newspapers about Mr. Jackson?
I have no idea.
How many television shows do you think you appeared on where you purported to give private information about Michael Jackson?
The only thing that I can recall that I appeared on was maybe with Inside. I think it was Inside Edition. There wasn't an interview with me, but I think they captured me walking, maybe, with. I don't know if it was Kasim.
Do you recall meeting with any representative of the media while you worked at Neverland?
No.
And you're telling the jury that you never had any discussion with any employee while you worked at Neverland about what you could make by selling a story?
The only thing I recall when I worked at Neverland was one of the maids, Francina Roscoe, had contacted the media. I don't know if it was. It was one of the tabloids and they had offered her $2,000, and she was going to come out and talk, but they wanted her picture. And she was considering doing that. That's the only thing I ever remember with that.
Finally, when did you last talk to anyone representing any media outlet about Mr. Jackson?
I have not interviewed with anybody about Mr. Jackson.
I don't mean an interview. I mean, when have you last spoken with anyone who purported to represent the media?
I haven't really been talking to anybody about anything with the media.
Has anyone called you from the media?
I did get a call from somebody from London at my job, and they wanted to interview, and I told them no.
When was that?
Maybe within the last week.
And you didn't interview because there is a court order in this case that you're not allowed to do that if you're a witness, right?
That's correct.
Did you agree with them that on a future date you may speak to them?
I told them that I was not interested in doing any interviews, that I was under a gag order.
No further questions at this time.
Redirect.
Mr. Mesereau asked you some questions about an article that was in a tabloid that quotes you as saying that you have all kinds of information about kinky sex secrets between Michael Jackson and Lisa Marie Presley. He showed you that article and asked you if it refreshed your recollection as to whether there was, in fact, such an article, and you said yes, it refreshed your recollection as to that article. About the quotations in the article, are they accurate?
No, they are not.
Did you ever give information about kinky sex secrets between Michael Jackson and Lisa Marie Presley to any publication, any media, or any reporter?
No, never.
Do you, in fact, have information of kinky sex secrets between Michael Jackson and Lisa Marie Presley?
No, I do not.
Have you ever seen Michael Jackson with Lisa Marie Presley?
How do you mean, seen?
Was she at the ranch during the period of time that you were there?
Yes, she was.
Were they married during that time?
No.
Were they visiting one another?
I believe so.
Do you have any information at all that Lisa Marie Presley ever stayed with Michael Jackson in his room?
No.
Did you ever see any woman stay with Michael Jackson in his room in the 4 years you worked for him?
No, I did not.
You stated in the deposition that you had never seen Michael Jackson hold hands with anyone. Is that a correct statement?
No.
Have you seen him holding hands with people?
Yes.
Who?
Brett Barnes. The children that were at the ranch.
You told Mr. Feldman during the deposition that you had never come into Mr. Jackson's room and seen evidence that somebody had slept on the floor. Was that, in fact, a correct statement?
That's correct.
In fact, during the time that you had worked there, you had never seen any evidence that someone had slept on the floor?
Correct.
You told Mr. Mesereau about June Chandler unpacking clothing in Mr. Jackson's bedroom. Did that, in fact, happen?
Yes, it did.
Explain that to us, please.
June Chandler had gone into Mr. Jackson's room and brought in suitcases of Geordie Chandler's clothes, since he was staying with Mr. Jackson in his bedroom.
I guess that begs the question. Miss Chandler obviously knew that her son was sleeping in that room, correct?
Yes.
Objection. Calls for speculation.
Argumentative. Sustained.
Did she do this on more than one occasion?
I believe so.
Was there a dresser or a drawer set up for Geordie's clothing?
No, the clothes would just get put anywhere in the room.
Was there any occasion that you saw June Chandler in Michael Jackson's room when she was not attending to her child's clothing?
Not that I can recall.
You testified in the deposition that you had not seen Wade Robson on the property without a parent. Was that a correct statement?
I'm sorry, you lost me.
Had you ever seen Wade Robson at Neverland without a parent?
No.
Who was the parent that was always there?
His mother.
And you never met the father?
No.
Your initial conversations with the sheriff's office, were they at a time that you were still employed at Neverland Ranch?
Yes.
You testified in the deposition that Brett Barnes' mother would bring you his clothes to wash. Was that, in fact, true?
At times that was true.
Was that always the manner in which you washed his clothes?
No.
In what other ways would you be washing his clothes?
If they were left in Mr. Jackson's room, I would take them and wash them along with Mr. Jackson's clothes.
You have testified in the Chandler deposition that you never saw Jordy and Michael Jackson in his bedroom together. Was that a correct statement?
No, it was not.
Had you seen the two of them together in the bedroom?
Yes.
On more than one occasion?
Yes.
Had you ever seen them in bed together?
Not in bed, no.
You testified that you never saw Brett Barnes sleep in the bedroom with Michael Jackson. You testified to that in the deposition, the Chandler deposition. Was that a correct statement?
No, it was not.
Had you, in fact, seen Brett Barnes sleep in a bedroom with Michael Jackson?
He was staying with Mr. Jackson.
Did you ever actually see either Michael Jackson or Brett Barnes in bed in Michael Jackson's room?
One morning I might have seen them in bed, yes.
Do you have a recollection of that?
Yes.
What did you see?
I brought breakfast and they were sitting in the bed.
Both of them together?
Yes.
Do you recall how they were dressed?
I don't recall.
Were they in the bed, under the covers, or?
Yes.
They were in the bed under the covers?
Yes.
You testified that you never saw Jordy Chandler either get ready for bed or get up in the morning. Were either of those statements true?
Yes.
Both of them?
Yes.
You testified that you never saw a chimp in his bedroom. Was that statement true?
No.
In fact, you'd been bitten by a chimp in his bedroom. Is that true?
Yes.
Did you use to clean up after the monkeys?
Yes.
Did you ever have to change their diapers?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes, I did.
Did you ever have to clean up monkey droppings on the floors?
Not on the floor, just on the walls.
On the walls?
Sometimes monkeys get wild.
You actually have to clean up their
Yes.
mess on the walls?
Yes.
You testified that you had never seen Jordy and Michael Jackson in the jacuzzi. Is that a correct statement?
Yes.
You had testified yesterday that you had testified in the Chandler lawsuit that you had no problems leaving your son with Michael Jackson. Was that true?
No.
Were you, in fact, concerned about your son and Michael Jackson?
Yes, I was.
Did you ever see Michael Jackson with your son behave in a way that concerned you?
Yes.
What did he do?
Mr. Jackson would rub his fingers through my son's hair.
Did that concern you at the time?
A little bit, yeah. I was a little upset.
I have no further questions.
Very briefly. You tried to sell a story to a tabloid about Mr. Jackson putting his fingers through your son's hair, didn't you?
No, I did not.
You tried to sell stories to tabloids about your son's experiences at Neverland, correct?
No, I did not.
Do you recall Mr. Jackson living at Lisa Marie Presley's home during the week, and Lisa Marie Presley visiting on weekends during the time that you worked at Neverland?
No.
You saw her there?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you ever see Brooke Shields there before Lisa Marie Presley?
Yes, I saw Brooke Shields, but I don't know if it was before.
No further questions.
Where did Brooke Shields stay when she stayed at Neverland Ranch?
In a guest unit.
No further questions.
No further questions.
All right. Thank you. You may step down.
Thank you.
Call your next witness.
Witness be subject to recall, Your Honor?
Yes.
Phillip LeMarque would be our next witness, Your Honor.
Remain standing. Raise your right hand. Face the clerk here.
I do.
Please be seated. State and spell your name for the record.
My name is Phillip LeMarque. Phillip. LeMarque. Lemarque.
Excuse me, Your Honor. I think we have that issue that was raised.
That doesn't come up until your exam.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Good morning, Mr. LeMarque. Where did you work in 1991?
At the Neverland Valley.
And who was your employer?
Michael Jackson.
Is he the man seated to my right?
Yes.
How long did you work at Neverland?
Oh, somewhere around 10 months or more. Somewhere like that.
And what did you do at Neverland?
Was in charge of the food. Majordomo of the food, and my wife was the cook.
All right. What do you mean by majordomo of the food?
Well, in charge of serving the food and preparing and organizing for the guests and so forth.
And you said your wife also worked there at the same time?
That's correct.
Where did you live while you were living, or while you were working at Neverland?
We were living at the ranch.
Whereabouts at the ranch?
It was a house which was by the zoo.
Were you involved in serving the food as well as preparing it?
Yes.
And you said you left your employment there after about 10 months?
Yes, somewhere around 10 months.
Why did you leave Neverland? Why did you leave the employment there?
There was an issue happening with Norma Stackos, who was Michael's private secretary.
All right. We're going to take a break.
All right. We have a morning break.